Air veteran? Yeah, I'm reading off the chart. Rex Selnes, he's a U.S. Marine, served in Vietnam. Come on up, buddy. Thank you for your service.
I gotta make sure it doesn't blow away on me here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, active and former military personnel, law enforcement officers, and especially those Vietnam vets attending, I'd like to welcome you to these opening ceremonies of the Vietnam Moving Wall. My name is Rex Selnes. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1968 to 1970, spending all of 1969 in Vietnam with the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, 3rd Division India Company. When I was asked to be the main speaker today, I started thinking, why me? Are all the high-ranking officers over there at the air show speaking, or what? So, or did someone else back out at the last second? Why me? I thought, I'm just a corporal. Well, that was for all of us corporals out there. So Larry Nicholson, our chapter president, Doc Mahonen, who was up here earlier, our chapter vice president, and Jason Hicks, they approached me and they said, hey, you know, you were a combat vet. You're a combat vet, so what we need you to do is just talk about what it was like being over there, what it was like coming home, and what this wall means to me. So before I begin, I want everybody to know that all combat vets, whether they be Korean, Vietnam, Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, if you're a combat vet, you probably got a similar story to mine. So I grew up in a small Minnesota farming community, just north of East Grand Forks up here, and I was just like every other typical farm boy. I was taught to work hard and to play hard. When I was 17 years old, senior in high school, my biggest problem was, hey, where's the party this weekend and who's bringing the beer? I still worked hard, but all that playing hard eventually got the best of me. I ended up not having enough credits to graduate from high school. So I knew I was going to be drafted, so with my parents' permission, I joined the Marine Corps. On July 2nd, 1968, I arrived in boot camp in San Diego. It was training started along with the beatings the second we got off the bus. It was 12 weeks of pure hell. The goal of the boot camp was to transform these young civilians into Marines that would follow any and all orders without hesitation. Next was Camp Pendleton for ITR, Intensive Regiment Training. 16 more weeks of physical conditioning, weapons training, survival skills, guerrilla warfare, along with ambush and recon operations. In those 7 months of intense training, we had been transformed into one of the deadliest killing machines in the world, and the United States Marine. On January 4th, I landed in Da Nang. I just turned 18, and seriously, I didn't have a clue of where I was. I stepped off the plane, looked around and thought, what in the hell did I just get myself into here? I spent that night out on China Beach where I met a guy by the name of Melvin Clay, another BNG as we were called, brand new guys. And he was joining the same unit as I was. The next day, Clay and I jumped on a Huey and were taken off the hill where we were introduced to our CO, Captain Trotter. Funny thing about meeting Trotter was when we got off the Huey, we were led down to the command center, which was just a foxhole. And both Clay and I, right away, we saw Trotter there. We snapped to attention, saluted, and he came unglued on us. Don't you ever salute me. Don't you ever call me sir. Out in the bush. Never do that again. Well, we settled in. I was assigned to SMAC's platoon. Jim Mikulski from Gary, Indiana. He was my mentor, and he taught me well. We hit it off, and we became best buddies. 2 days later, we went on a recon mission south of Anwa, and our point man walked us into an ambush. The guy 3 feet from me had his face blown off, all over me. I threw up, I actually peed my pants, and I was scared to death. And that's when reality set in. I was in the middle of a war. And after the fight was over, he was the only one killed, but we had 3 others wounded. And we dug in for the night, and Captain Trotter pulled me off to the side. And I'll never forget the words that he told me. Stone-faced, he looked at me and he said, "Selnes, I know that your reactions were normal today, but I never want to see that again. Death is a part of war. Get used to it." And he walked away. Well, I caught up to him and I said, "Hey, how do you deal with death when it's one of your own soldiers?" He just looked at me and he said, "You stuff it." And then he got the guys together, which I found out they'd done many times before. We got into a huddle, like a football team out on the field. Everybody's arms on everybody else's shoulders. And we chanted, "It don't mean nothing. It just don't mean nothing." That's how I was taught to deal with death and adversity. By the time I left Vietnam, our company had chanted those words, "It don't mean nothing," 16 more times. We ate, slept, and lived out in the bush. We're on the perimeter of a gun base. Our dining room table was a log or a rock. Our food was sea rations. Our bed was a foxhole, except during the monsoon seasons when we'd find any high ground we could to sleep. And we lived like animals for so long, we became animals. No feeling, no empathy, no sympathy, just anger and hate. Trotter taught us not to think of the enemy as human beings, but as rabid animals that had to be eradicated from this earth. I ended up with malaria. I got sent back to Dong Ha, and my temperature was 106.3. Medics threw me on in an old bathtub, packed me with ice until my temperature was down enough to send me to a hospital ship. I spent 14 days on that hospital ship before I was able to join my group again. And I ended up getting malaria again in August. Well, on June 2nd, 1969, my platoon leader and my best buddy Slacks, he had just come back from R&R, where he met his wife and his 2-year-old daughter in Hawaii. That's all he could talk about. And he just couldn't wait to get back to Indiana. 2 days later, we were in Ashaw Valley. Excuse me. When we were attacked by the NVA, Smacks caught a round in his back. And when it exited his stomach, half his guts were hanging out. I grabbed him, started yelling for a medic. I cradled him in my arms and promised him that he'd be okay, and that he was going to go home and see his family. When he died in my arms, something inside me died too. And the anger and hate just kept growing inside me. That same day, Schroeder assigned me as the new platoon leader. And 2 days later, another replacement showed up for SMACs. And because of the wounded and the KIAs and the new soldiers were coming to join our company quite often, and after SMACs died, I just wasn't interested in getting to know any of the new guys. I thought that if I didn't know them that well, the pain and the hurt wouldn't be as bad as when they got wounded or killed. And I could go on about life in the bush, but I'd just be repeating the same story over and over again. So on January 16th, 1970, I landed in San Francisco. I was back in the States. We were met by protesters that yelled and screamed obscenities at us, called us baby killers, psychos, and threw stuff and spit on us. When I got home, back to El Dorado, I struggled to adjust to civilian life. I didn't know how to show any emotions, how to be a husband or a father. I didn't even know how to love. I drank to ease the pain and try to forget. My wife couldn't understand couldn't put up with the fear she had for herself and her kids, and the anger outbursts, the physical and mental abuse, and my time spending in the bars. She eventually filed for a divorce. I grew my hair out, grew a beard, and for many years I refused to admit that I'd ever been in the service. I was so ashamed, and I was so haunted by the things that I did over there. I just couldn't get, I wouldn't get help. So the nightmares, the drinking, the fighting, in and out of jail kept on. I was a full-blown alcoholic. Then I met Judy, sitting over here. It was love at first sight. I asked her out, and we continued dating. She always knew what to say to me, how to say it, and every day she taught me the meaning of what love was. She made me realize that family was everything. Now, 47 years later, we have 9 children, 20 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren, and I love every one of them, and they love to be around Grandpa. Thank you. In 1981, Judy convinced me to get treatment for alcohol. You know, the or else thing that they do?
What is that? You said or else thing.
Yes, and so I went. Between the two of us, between AA and Al-Anon, I can say that we, not me, but we, are very proud to announce that this past June, we've celebrated 43 years of continuous sobriety.
Yeah!
I still have occasional nightmares, still can't sit in a restaurant without sitting with my back to a wall and watching for an exit. But with a lot of love and patience, I've learned how to deal with my PTSD. And I've also found a new group of friends when I joined the local Vietnam Veterans of America chapter here, chapter 941. They're all Vietnam vets my age, with some sharing the same story. These Vietnam vets have become my extended family. They've helped me to heal those deep-seated wounds I've carried for so many years, and they're a great organization. And these guys have helped me so much. And just to know that our chapter's going to have a booth over on the other side here this weekend, so please stop by and see us. We'd love to visit. When I found out the moving wall was coming to Moorhead, I jumped at the chance to be involved with organizing it. The planning and camaraderie had given me a purpose and a satisfaction that in my heart I was doing something good for all of our fallen brothers. And on a personal note, this is my chance for the closure I've needed for so many years to say farewell to my 17 brothers that are on the wall that I served with. And in closing, I'd like to invite you to visit the Vietnam Moving Wall on this very special occasion and honor the loved ones you may have lost, but also pay tribute to 58,267 brave men and women who gave their lives so we can enjoy the freedoms only found here in the United States of America. Thank you.